What's going on, fellas? Friday, just circling back on our Top Fuel Hoops segment. I had a chance to run over to the scrapyard and get the material I needed to manufacture the hoops. And to show you what I go there and get, I buy just short cut-off pieces of 3/16 tubing. This is a little larger diameter piece of 3/16. These would be for the hoops we make for the Hemi. You can see how much material gets turned down out of that. These are for the big bore sleeves for the Brad Anderson. This is a 4.5 inch bore. So I need pipe that has like almost a 5 inch OD. And this is small wall. This is only like 3/8 wall. But I like to get the thicker stuff. It just depends on what they have at the scrapyard. Went over there earlier today and haven't got machining yet on this. Gonna get on this afternoon in the morning, finish that program. But I had to get ahead and get that material and I wanted the hoops made first. Because this is kind of an oddball head. Well, I don't want to say oddball, but it's a little different. On the 351 Windsor block, utilizing the C3 symmetrical head, I wanted to lay the hoop out. I had to check where, being it's a water head, so we don't have unlimited area where to put the hoop. So I had to kind of dial in the exact material I needed. I needed to make some hoops and then make my program around that. So I went out to the scrapyard and picked up a couple nice pieces of 3/16. This is real thick wall stuff here. A little too thick than what I needed, but that's okay. We'll chop it away. So all I'm doing now, I got a few cut pieces, and I'm just trimming them up on the lathe here, on the manual lathe, just getting them squared up, and just put the other piece in the CNC, and I'll show you how we manufacture the hoops in-house. So that's all I was doing there, is getting that piece squared up. That's the second piece I got. I got a little smaller piece. This here will be dedicated for like the small block Chevys. But that Windsor motor there, that's a big bore Windsor block. That's a dart block that has a bore of a 4-inch 155. So it's a 30 over 4-inch 125. So, obviously a stock 351 Windsor is only a 4-inch bore. This is like the big bore, like the Man of War block. But, so I got the Mazak set up and just finished programming that. So we'll walk back here for a second. Well, I got a minute. Everybody's at lunch today. It's Friday. And I got the other piece chucked up in there. And again, we use 3/16 stainless. This particular piece had some weird scale on the outside, but it's okay. We're cutting that all off. So got it on our trusty Mazak, our slant turn 20 ATC. And again, this is a Mazak CNC lathe that has live tooling and milling capabilities. So it's a mill turn center. Modern to me, compared to the old G-code, this is a Mazatrol. And I know we talked about the Fanuc controls prior, shown on that Vectrax mill we brought in. But all the early model Mazaks, mind you, had Fanuc controls. And shortly after Mazak started producing their own line of CNC equipment, they came out with their own control called a Mazatrol. And you can't see it here, it's all worn off. But our Mazak mill, Mazatrol, CAM M2, and the CAM, which stands for Computer Aided Machining. So Mazak's sales pitch was they were going to make a control that had built-in CAD cam. Not really CAD, CAD's drawing, but built-in cam. And I know it's blinking, and it's just, I don't know why cameras do that. But we'll go over here to the program and show you what we got here and how the program starts. This asks me, what's the OD of the part? Well, the OD of that pipe is 4-inch 550. On the OD, the ID is 3-inch 950. I got a 3-inch length, I'm calling it. I'm just calling it just a random length. And what I'm going to do is here, I need to make 8 of them. I'll just teach 0 to the front of this pipe, and after I make one and cut it off, then I'll move the carousel in, and I'll just keep reteaching 0 on my Z to tell it where the end of the part is. Well, I put a rev limit of 1500 RPMs in. It asks me, what do I want to finish on Z? I'll leave 5 thousandths for a finish cut, and 20 thousandths on the work face is what we're facing off. So my first line of information, it calls it edge, basically facing off. I'm going to face the part off. Third process, turn down, bar out, which stands for bar turning down. And I'm going to put a little 20 thousandths radius on the end of it. I'm going to turn my OD down to 4-inch 320, and I'm only going to turn down a little over 200 thousandths because the fire ring, or the hoop, should we call it, it's only going to be 60 thousandths wide. Then I'm going to pick up a boring bar, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to bore out on X. Remember, that's tubing, so the ID rather, starts out at 3-inch 950. Jog its cursor down here. So we're going to start at 3-inch 950. Again, we're going to radius chamfer it 20 thousandths. We're going to finish X at 4-inch 240. That's what we're going to bore it to. And Z, we're going to go down to only an 80 thousandths depth on our move, on our Z travel. And then we're going to pick up a grooving tool, and we're going to part it off. And the first grooving process is a chamfering process, and I'll use the same tool to chamfer it, and then I'll come in down there and then groove again. I'll pick up another process where I'll cut it off. Now it's thin, so what I usually do is just take a piece of material and manually I'll just hold it here while it parts off. Try not to get a bath, so when it parts off it'll just float onto this little piece of aluminum tubing. Usually hold it that way so it doesn't fall down in a mess and I gotta pick it out. It's not a super fast process because I'm not taking heavy cuts, but we can go over here and back to our position, and after we program we can hit trace, and then we can show our workpiece figure, and the green represents the tubing, and the shape, you can see little white lines where it's showing the purple's where I'm facing off on the other side of Z0, and then the white is where we're turning down, boring, and parting off. And the estimated cycle time is 3 minutes 46 seconds. So it's not super fast, but it's definitely faster than doing it manually. So let me go ahead and zero it back in, and I'll make a couple and show you in real time how we make these hoops. And these are going to be the actual hoops that we're making for this C3 head. And I'm trying to get the customer ready. He has to be on the dyno next Friday, and I believe next weekend they're going to Elk Creek, Virginia, some kind of race. I don't know exactly. I believe it's a big tire, tube chassis car. I don't think it's a bracket car. I think he's some kind of heads-up class, but he was having head gasket problems, so he came in to have us do the modification to put our top fuel hoops in. So let's go ahead and put this back into position and put it in auto, and I'll show you how we're going to make some hoops. Probably go to the door to inhale. Yeah. Oh, is he? All right, tell him to be out in a minute. Okay. We need to run the UPS store. Drop it. There we go.
Any better?
We'll just lay it on the bench here next to a roll of masking tape to give it some scale. So this is what we got. Our stainless steel hoop. This particular one, I'm making it 60 thousandths wide. And again, we're going to encapsulate this into the head. Walk out here again. Now that I have the hoop made, I could go ahead and dial it in where I want on the chamber. And we can center this up, fit this in the chamber where we want it. And that's what we're going to machine to press in the head. 60 thousandths wide. So what we'll do is we'll probably cut the depth on the head, like 45 thousandths, and then we'll cut the receiver groove in the block 15, and we'll let the copper crush encapsulate our hoop into the receiver groove in the block. So that gives you the kind of the gist of what it takes to make the hoops. And I'm going to go back there now, and I'm going to finish making the other 7. I'll make a couple extra, but this is a dedicated custom sized hoop just for this particular head and application. So I'm going to go ahead and go finish that up, and I got another little segment for you I'm going to add on to this before we finish today's episode out here at the House of Horsepower. Show you what we got cooking out in the dirty garage. I popped the rear end in on the other funny car chassis, and I don't know, I got some things on my mind I'm gonna lay out there and see what you guys think. So follow up in a few minutes. Let me finish them hoops up. All right, we're all finished up. We got our hoops made for our customer, and I'm gonna shut her down. Call it a day back here. And I'll tell you, anyone that's getting into CNC machining as a beginner, or even if you're a manual machinist, just getting into CNCs, look into the Mazaks, because I've run a lot of them, a lot of different brand machines. And again, I like the FANUC control because you can do anything on a FANUC. But as far as speed, fast programming, reliability, man, the Mazak is just, I just think it's the cat's ass. Even the older ones. I mean, this is a late 80s machine. And for regular 2D work, I've seen a lot of guys with a lot of different high-end CAD cams, Master Cam, Bobcat, and I could usually smoke them on what I can make a program in. And as far as chip-to-chip time from start out to get running. And I'm not bragging because I'm not no brainiac or genius or expert on anything by any means, but I've just found that the Mazak for fast prototyping and to even the mid-run production, it's hard to beat. My dad got into the Mazaks early on when they first came out, and I tried my best to prove him wrong by running everything in between, from Pratt & Whitney's, Monarchs, Hitachi Seikis, Warner Swayzes, Matsuras, you name it. And some of them had a little more girth, a little more iron, were a little more stouter. But as far as speed, I really think the Mazak, I'd like to say the Mazak's probably like the Ferrari of machine tools. I say the Morosiki was maybe like the Mercedes-Benz. The OKK was like the Mack truck. But Haas and Fidel, it'd be like your Geo Metro of cars, if you're gonna do an analogy on cars. A lot of guys are gonna probably send me some hate mail on that, but I'm not a Haas fan, I'm not a Fidel fan. I like American-made equipment, no doubt, but unfortunately, there is no good American-made equipment anymore. I always loved Warner Swayze, Pratt & Whitney, Monarch, all great names, Bridgeport Machine Tools, Hardinge. They've all pretty much came and gone. Hardinge is still sort of open in a funny kind of way. They've really downsized over the years. You can see I have an old Hardinge turret lathe back there. But that's a whole nother story. But as far as my favorite machines, Warner and Swayze and Monarchs, Hardinges were, top of the mark. But Mazaks are still made, and they're badass machines. Had a Herco. I actually had a Cincinnati Millicron I bought brand new because I wanted an American-made machine. In 1996 was the first brand new machine I bought, and it wasn't a year later they were out of business. So anyway, let's shut the big phase converter off that runs our 3-phase, and don't laugh. It's a big 50-horse rotary phase converter that runs all my shit back here, and yes, I'm an amateur electrician also. Put too much emphasis on my wiring. We'll have the fire marshal over here. Screw machines kicking out parts all week. Oh, that's enough noise for back here. Oh yeah, let's walk out to the other shop. I want to show you guys something, see what you think. I put the rear end, remember we had the rear end we took over to Eddie's, had him paint it. I slapped it back in the car last night. It looked so damn good. I dug the Roadster body out of the shed back there. And I think she's looking pretty sharp. And remember, this was the old S&W chassis that was all bent up that we were fixing all the, well, we clipped the car at the motor plate. From the motor plate forward is all brand new tubing that my brother Chris fabricated and welded up. And remember, we stretched the car too. It was barely 119 inches when we got it. And it's funny car standard 125 now. And this was going to be the match race car. This was going to be like the backup car to the Dodge Avenger. I'm going to put the Chevrolet motor in this, and that's what we bought the Vette body for. But I called my brother up today after I put the body on. And I sent him a picture after I put the rear end in. I said, it's looking pretty sporty with the altered body back on there. And this was the car after I sold the John Fiorini funny car last year when I took my little hissy fit and things weren't coming together fast enough. I sold the funny car and figured we weren't going to be able to do it. And I found this one up in Maryland for a song and a dance. And remember, I had that 396 in there. I pulled the 396 out and sold it for what I had in the car, so we don't have really much in the car. But until we started taking it apart, we realized how fucked up it was and had to re-clip the whole car. We ended up, like I said, if you've been following along, I've been making little videos as we went. We re-clipped the car basically from the cage back, and we added the helmet bars and all the updates. We put the knee bars in it and added the puke tank in the back and the tree for the funny car body. And remember, I did the segment, I went over the rear end. I had to re-narrow the rear because it was all out of whack. This is when I did that floater modification on. So, but I called my brother across town. I sent him a message. I said, you know what? I said, here it is, middle of May. You know, we got still a good ways to go on the Vini Hemi. I said, why don't we just pound together a big block, put the Roadster body on there. Now, my brother, you know, he's been in motorsports all his life too, but not drag racing really. He's been in the motocross, and motorcycles, and boats. But he had some door cars, but nothing serious. Like, you know, I stayed in the cars from junior high till now. But I said, why don't we... maybe we'll get your feet wet in this. Let's go ahead and just pound the motor together while we're, you know, I'm working on the Vini and we got a lot of stuff to do still and some parts to find. Maybe I'm thinking about maybe doing something with a big block, keeping the Roadster body on there, and maybe we'll just run NHRA competition eliminator for the rest of the year. You know, the rump shaker, the Bantam alter I had before the funny car, that's what we ran comp eliminator on and off for the last couple decades, and the rump shaker was set up as a AA AM. That was a AA blown methanol. I said, we got a couple fuel systems from the boat. Let's maybe I'll pound together a blown gas motor, and we'll put this in as a small inch big block and run it as a double B altered, and I'll get the car sorted out and let him get his feet wet driving this. But just want to see what you guys thought. I'm not trying to get off on a different tangent. I'm not taking anything away from the funny cars. We're going NHRA top alcohol funny car racing, but you know, it's kind of tough trying to put two funny cars together with two broke asses like me and my brother trying to put all our money together, you know, work all week and whatever's left over, try to buy parts for. But, I mean, we got enough stuff for this, and I won't even have to get a pro tag on this. We could finish up the welding work that he needs to do, paint the frame, get Danny down here to put a sportsman tag on it. We'll get a 6.0 tag on it, and, you know, maybe go after... you know, do some comp eliminator racing. You know, I still got my comp license, you know, even though I've put in for my top alcohol license to get my upgrade, but I still got a valid blown alcohol license for comp eliminator. So, but we'll see what you guys thought. But this is the old S&W car. That's you know, the Avengers at Chris's house still. He was finishing up making the computer box and you know, finished up some of the brackets on the Lenko that we put the cross member on, and he's all about finished with that. So I'm about ready to swap cars again. But it would be cool if he would go along with that, and maybe we could have something hit the track in the next couple of weeks. So I don't know. This is thought. I thought it looked pretty sporty with the old Bantam body back on it with the big 17-inch slicks on there. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna call it an evening, and tomorrow write that program, and we'll start cutting the hoops for our customer. And you know, we got to get our customers racing. We're always secondary, so get them going, and that gives us the money where we can play. So, all right, guys, well, have a good Friday evening, and we'll holler at you later.